help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound.
Welcome, everyone, to What's the Rush with me, Rebecca Rush. I am your teammate on this adventure. And together we talk to amazing people and explore the transformative insights that are discovered in the quiet moments from some of these guests. You might not expect that they're ever quiet. But today's guest, Michelle Parker, she is a good friend. She's one of the most respected and innovative skiers and celebrated athletes of her generation. But she is so much more than an athlete. She is a pioneering presence in ski films, in advocating for avalanche safety, environmental stewardship. She has consistently used her platform to lift others up, not just in skiing, but in all outdoor sports. She is such a leader. I have so much respect for her. And she is this light that just illuminates the world around her everywhere that she goes. And she's faced a lot of challenges, from career altering injuries. She's stepped into the role of caregiver for her father. And yet she continues to lead with positivity, courage, compassion. And her story is really about when the mountains teach you more than skill, and they teach you about strength and life and endurance. And so, Michelle Parker, welcome to What's the Rush?
Thank you so much. Those are always very overwhelming, but I will receive that with so much gratitude. Thank you, Rebecca.
It's probably a little weird. I mean, you've done so many things in your life, from like competition at a super young age in skiing, and then moving into films and backcountry and being really a leader in the industry. Like your career, you're 38. I just asked you right before this. Your career is so broad that you seem young for as much as you've done. And so I want to dig into a bit of your backstory. I'd love to know. I'd love to know about your family getting you into skiing and getting you into the outdoors, because being outside has been basically the through line of your entire life. And if I'm not wrong, it was your parents that really kind of planted that seed for you.
Yeah, 100%. I feel endlessly fortunate and privileged to have grown up here in Lake Tahoe. And basically, like the way that my youth went is that every single day from when I was 4 on, the bus would pick me up at noon and drive me to the resort, and I would meet my ski coaches there, and that was my daycare. And then my mom would pick me up at 4:30 at the big tree, and I'd come home. And so that was kind of the way I was raised. And I think a lot of the influence I had at a young age was from my ski coaches. And my mom was like this ultimately super passionate skier and outdoor advocate who she hikes the same trail every single day. She skis every single day. Like she had this thing she wanted to be the most days on hill at Palisades, and she would always get to like 130 days, and on her lunch break she would go out and make one run and make it count. And so she's been a huge influence in that way. Like what rain or shine, I'm like, my mom would go make a run, so I'm gonna get out there. But yeah, that like passion shared with me just through doing, not necessarily even like watching. Like my mom wouldn't take me every single day, but it was really special to grow up under her like passion for that aspect of life. And then my dad was a professional tennis player, so he really understood sport and always supported me in that way, like tenfold. He was my coach in every sport I played. And I played a lot of tennis. They moved to Tahoe the year before I was born from Florida, where my life path could have gone in a very different direction. I would have been a tennis player, although my torso
Great.
is about the size of Serena and Venus's quads, so I don't know if I would have made it too much. But yeah, he's a passionate athlete, and I think the combination of the two of them really created who I am today for sure.
I love that your mom sort of like daycare, like so she could go skiing on her own. She's like, yeah, put her in ski school and whatever, and I'm gonna go do my skiing. It's
Yeah.
kind of
And like my dad on a powder day, he would write a note to the principal and be like, "My daughter is studying the laws of gravity and inertia today." And like we would skip school. And they just supported having fun, which I love.
this is something that in what I know about you, and in studying for this, and looking at your family, it feels to me like sort of a lot of the drive comes from your mom to like do the thing and go do the thing. And then a lot of the like joy and silliness and happiness seems to come from your dad's energy, and you're sort of this combination of joy but also this gritty drive, which is a really cool combination.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I have wonderfully supportive parents. I always think about it like when I didn't go to college, I have gone and studied certain things just out of passion. But when I didn't go to college, my parents never second guessed me. They never questioned me. I was like, I'm going to take a year off and then I'm going to take 2 years off. And at this point, I was already competing in X Games and stuff like that. And then I was like, I'm going to take 3 years off. And at that point, it was a full fledged career, but my parents never second guessed me. They never questioned it. And that, to me, as someone who's 38 now, I'm like, that's kind of astonishing. Like, they just,
Yeah.
okay, you're not going to school. You're going to pursue this skiing thing that we've never really like seen be super successful. Do it. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And you know, there wasn't really a model at that time for somebody to have a career in skiing unless you're going to the Olympics World Cup route, which isn't the style that you were doing. You know, you mentioned you competed in the very first X Games. Like it wasn't even a thing when you were trying to make this a career for yourself.
yeah,
It wasn't really a thing. So for your parents to be able to, you know, support you and have a vision for something that didn't even exist yet, that's pretty big.
I think so. And I think that it really allowed me to follow something with my whole heart
Hmm.
and to dedicate everything I had to it, which I'm so thankful for.
You know, I have to give my mom a shout out too. She was the same with me when I was like, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to live in my car so I can rock climb and adventure race. And I don't really know how this is going to work. And she always was just like, great, you're not on drugs. You're not asking me for money. Like, I'm fine with that. And she was always really supportive. And I can look back now and see how special that that really was to say, I don't understand what you're doing, but okay, you know.
So, yeah, they had the faith. They were like, okay, spread your wings and fly.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about parents since we're on that note, uh and I'll try not to cry right now, but I am. I lost my mom about 7 months ago, so it's pretty recent, and it was a real blow. And I know that you're going through some health stuff with your dad.
Yeah.
Like, can you talk about his that journey with him?
Yeah, for sure. Now I'm gonna try not to cry. I'm so sorry, first of all.
Parents, no parents. It's like,
So
yeah,
important.
yeah. So I would love to know kind of, I mean, you've talked really publicly about your dad's Parkinson's and suffering from dementia, and you and your family have really come together on that, and you've taken a leadership role. And I would really love to know kind of what that's like for you and how that's been shaping you.
Yeah, so he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, I want to say roughly 12 years ago. I remember it was Christmas dinner and I looked over and I saw his hand and it had a tremor. And I immediately Googled it because that's not normal. And it immediately led me to, WebMD is like Parkinson's for sure. And so I was like, Dad, you got to go to the doctor and get this checked out. And he went to the doctor on his own. And in retrospect, I really wish that I was there with him in that moment because a friend of mine who is my dad's friend just told me that it was a total blow. And they were on the way to a golf tournament and he stopped in and he got the results. And at that
Mm,
point, the only thing that was presenting was the tremor. And slowly, over the course of 10 years, essentially, his neurological side started to decline. It presented as a physical thing. And Parkinson's and dementia is like, from my understanding, 50% hereditary, 50% environmental. In his case, I think it's really hereditary. All five of his siblings, he's one of five, have some sort of neurological stuff going on, presenting differently.
yeah.
And anyways, so yeah, the 10 years went by and I'm super fortunate to get to live really close to them. So we spend a fair amount of time together regularly. And I remember at the tail end of that, he was retiring from being a real estate agent. And I was in the office with him for like hours on end trying to figure out how to sign a contract. And I was like, something else is happening here that's not normal. He then, like, basically 2 years ago, basically what happens with Parkinson's is that your body doesn't go into REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement sleep. And so when you fall asleep and you have these vivid dreams, rapid eye movement sleep is when your body's paralyzed. And without that, you are not paralyzed. So you start acting out the dreams, from my understanding. And he essentially was having these really vivid dreams, which is a part of dementia and Parkinson's, and acting them out. And he actually escaped the house one January on a really cold night and wandered off. And my brother and mom woke up around 6 a.m., realized he was missing, and they found him in the neighbor's garage, and just ultimately confused, had this really wild story about being on an iceberg and all this stuff, but like almost frostbitten, like a terrible situation. I immediately took him to the neurologist the very next day. We found someone locally. We were going down to San Francisco, and he diagnosed him within the first 5 minutes and said, "You have Lewy body dementia," which is commonly paired with Parkinson's. And for me, I had just taken on the role of directing a film with Arc'teryx, and my season was really stacked. I had a ton more responsibility than your typical athlete. And I was like, whoa, hard stop. Like, my dad has Lewy body dementia. I started researching. It's a fast acting dementia, and he needs 24-hour care. Like, we
Yeah.
can't just have him on his own anymore.
Yeah.
And so I basically like redesigned my entire season that year to stay home and film from home. And there was so many powder days that were beautiful, perfect film days where I was playing pickleball with my dad. And like at that point we could play pickleball, and that was really good, like hand-eye coordination. And I just say that because the old me would never skip that day, but the new me was like, oh, my priorities have shifted and my dad is now my priority. And he, we talked a little bit about how supportive he was growing up. He was my best friend and took care of me through 6 knee surgeries and was just always my right hand man. So I feel like I would not do it any other way. Like, I want to be with him until the bitter end and make sure that his quality of life is as high as it possibly can be. And yeah, so my brother and mom and I came together, and now we're with him 24 hours. And my trips often are like Wednesday, or like maybe I'll leave on a Thursday and come back on a Tuesday so I can get that day in with him. And it's completely shifted my priorities in life, which has been honestly at a perfect time for my physical body in this action sports world. And it has taken me through a long road of grieving in very different stages. Your person is still there, but they're not entirely themselves. I went through a phase of being like, whoa, the sky is bluer and the snow is deeper and my relationships are so solid and this is beautiful and life is amazing and I'm so lucky to like, and I was like, this feels like a superpower and I don't know if it's going to last very long, because I was just so grateful because of what I was experiencing. And sure enough, that phase passed and I went into like a deep grieving phase of my life as I used to know it, my family's dynamic, my dad being ill with something that's uncurable and really hard and frustrating. And then I feel like I've landed in more of an acceptance stage now, where I am like, this is what it is, and I accept it. And I don't feel this deep feeling of guilt that I used to feel, which I think is healthy. I basically had to replace the word guilt with acceptance in my vocabulary to like come around to that. I would feel so guilty when I left to do my job. I would feel so guilty when I wasn't here for my family. And throughout the last 2 years, my family has become so close. We've worked together really well. There's been hard moments for sure, but we share this one common thread of making my dad have the best days he can possibly have. And I'm so proud of the way that we've done it, in part because we don't have other options.
Yeah.
The local care facility here in Lake Tahoe is, I want to say it's $20,000 a month to keep someone there. And so as a result, like, we're taking care of him at our home and we don't have any additional help. And it's been the most difficult expedition of my life, but also the most beautiful, beautiful moment in my entire life. I wouldn't change it at all. I would change it for him because it's hard for him to live with. But
Yeah. I was going to ask, like, how is his awareness with the way that your family is growing through this experience? Is he able to see the closeness that's developing between you and your mom and your brother?
I think on occasion, but we're pretty far past that now.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, it was really hard, to be honest. It wasn't like we came to this like super fluid state of caregiving. It was really hard. We butted heads, and now I think we've all kind of recognized that we each have our own lives, and how can we support each other. And my brother and I are way closer than we've ever been, which is amazing. But he doesn't really fully have awareness
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. My sister, it's a gift that's come from my mom's death, is my sister and I have gotten closer in just dealing with the experience of it and going through it together. So yeah, it is one of the sort of, I guess, silver linings. It's like, and everyone is going to go through this kind of grief in some form or another. Do you, I mean, we've all heard of like the 7 stages of grief or whatever it is, and it's kind of real. It sounds like you have moved through those, even though we know that those are the psychological stages. How did you help yourself sort of pass to the next stage, or what was your therapy that has helped you move through this?
Honestly, that's a great question. I think a lot of it is using a therapist and having
Mhm.
someone that I can speak to openly about all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I've had some really big revelations with those conversations. Additionally, for me, I've had to kind of be better about maintaining my personal boundaries and knowing what I can and cannot take on. I think
Mhm.
there's just this other layer of stress and anxiety that's placed in my life as a result of this. And navigating that has been really messy at times. Like last summer, I was a mess. I didn't do anything. I was at home caregiving, like totally down and out, not smiling, not motivated to go do stuff. I was really struggling with it. And I think that's only natural. Your life shifts entirely, and I didn't know anyone else my age that was dealing with it, and it was really hard. And
Yeah.
that might sound really selfish to some degree. Like it felt selfish at the time. I was like, I need to be giving everything to my family and doing this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I had to learn to take care of myself. And my way of taking care of myself is going into the mountains and exploring and being with close friends and being close to nature. And that has been my guiding light. Like it's been so important to me. I have a dog now. I got a puppy. I threw on that layer of stress when I was like, this is great. I'm home. I'm caregiving. I'm going to get a
Please.
puppy. Yeah. But that gets me out the door every single morning, first thing, and every single evening, last thing, with the most beautiful light. And
Mm,
she has brought so much joy to our lives. Like just being outside is so therapeutic for me. Breathing fresh air, noticing the way that the light hits the tall
yeah.
blue grass in the meadow behind my house. Like all of those tiny things bring me so much joy. And I try not to move so fast that I don't notice them.
There's so much that's resonating in your story with my, long-term concussion recovery symptoms that have been the past few years. Um, some days, people won't believe when you say you weren't smiling. Michelle Parker wasn't smiling and wasn't motivated. Like that is not normal. And, I was in the same kind of state where I didn't want to get out of bed or go outside, but I had to walk my dogs, and they got me out at least for like 15-20 minutes twice a day. And some days I would just walk sort of into the field 5 minutes away and just sit under a tree and cry.
Mm,
And that was the extent of me being outside. Like that was it for the day. But
yeah,
I went out and sat under this tree because the dogs needed to go out. So I really resonate with some of the tools that you found,
yeah,
and nature as well. And to hear now that you're back to, I mean, you're getting out and doing some of your skiing and some of your biking and some of your outdoor adventures, maybe on a smaller scale than going to Alaska or riding for 6 weeks like you
well,
did.
yeah, that hasn't toned down so much, but yeah. I think that's important though. There's like like I was so down and out and so unmotivated and so sad, um and I don't use the word depressed lightly because I think that's a really serious thing. I was as close as I've come to that, right? Like I was just not having a good time. And the winter kicks in, you have commitments, you're a professional athlete, you have to show up. And I did that, and I've been able to do that even throughout this process. That's my job, that's my livelihood. But this spring, like honestly, I came home, my winter ended, and I was on multiple flights every single week for speaking engagements, sponsor this, whatever it was. I was so busy that my nervous system shut down. Like I've never, like, I went to Alaska this year, Rebecca, and I stood on top of a line and I had zero emotion. I was like, I'm not scared. I'm not happy. I am just neutral. Like, and that's
Wow.
not normal for me. Imagine standing on top of like the scariest line ever you could think of and not having any emotion. And it really freaked me out. I was like, there's something going on here that's deeper. Like, I'm not happy or sad. I'm just neutral. And since then, I've realized that like I have totally tapped through my nervous system and I need rest and recovery. I need to prioritize that, and like yeah, since then have built up firmer boundaries on what I can and cannot do. But it takes me getting to the rock bottom to like realize that and
Yeah.
switch it around.
So was that the point that where you, I mean, when you stood on the top of that line and you felt nothing, which is insane to, yeah, to not feel fear or feel any emotion just because you're so spent. Was that, what did you did that, you skied the line, you come home, then what was your, what action did you take from that sort of realization that like I burnt myself out?
Yeah, well, that happened right before I was competing for natural selection, which is, yeah, it's the first
Talk about
time. It started in snowboarding. It was Travis Rice's competition, his brainchild. And this past year, they finally invited, thankfully, finally is not the right word, but invited skiers to join. And so they did the first ever competition, and only 4 women were invited worldwide. And I was on that list. And I was like, hell yes. Like my career has been 23 years. Like I want to do this. It was an obvious yes. And
yeah.
then getting into it, I kind of changed my entire like lead up in my season because I was like, I'm doing this competition. I've got to have my tricks. I was skiing a lot of park. I was trying to stay really fit, working out. I kind of overdid it. By the time I went, like my right knee has been through so much with 4 different surgeries, and I've been told that I wouldn't ever ski again. And my knee was shot and my mental space was shot. I was going to bed at that competition and my entire body would vibrate. Like I wouldn't be able to fall asleep because I had so much nervous energy. And then I'd go into the mountains and have zero emotion and be just like, I don't know,
Wow.
like very neutral. And I've never experienced that in my life. Come to find out, now that I've like dove into my personal health, and a lot of this has come with a wonderful natural path here in Lake Tahoe, that I'm testing all of like adrenals and your hormone levels and all of this stuff. But as you get older, your body can't maintain the same mechanisms with your nervous system that you once could when you were younger. And so it kind of checks out that now I'm 38 and like with my dad and caregiving and all these new elements in my life, like I haven't been able to maintain a proper healthy nervous system. And I have had blood tests before where I've had zero testosterone and my adrenals were like really, really tanked. So it's kind of been on my mind a little bit, but I'm like, I didn't really have time to recover after the season. I'm just now like 3 weeks into it and feel amazing of being able to be home and rest and eat well and hang out with my dog and my family. But I think that's something like we focus so much on the mental side of our sports. We focus so much on the physical side of our sports, but the baseline is your nervous system. And if you're not taking care of that, the other stuff isn't going to work out.
I had a bunch of those learnings with, with the concussion, which is a invisible brain injury, but it's the central nervous system. It's basically the leader of your nervous system, that's connecting and managing everything in your body. And so, yeah, I've done some learning as well, and just like breathing and making sure I'm sleeping and walking the dogs and petting the dog releases oxytocin, and learned about, stuff that we kind of know, but realizing that this is critical for health and wellness for anyone, but
Yeah.
especially someone like you who has pushed so hard and pushed your body and your mind and your nervous system to the limit. Like, I'm really glad that you're discovering this. And sometimes, like you said, we have to hit the biggest friggin' challenge to sort of hit rock bottom and have a wake up call before
Yeah.
it's too late to be like, oh, I really need to change something. What is really amazing to me, I mean, you went and competed in natural selection, which is, incredible. And despite all of this that was going on, you finished second place and had great runs, and like it just goes to show the depth and like the muscle memory that's in your body, and how what a professional you are, that you could show up in that way, you could perform, you could put it down even though you knew physically there was something really not right in you. So I mean, congratulations. I'm glad that you it's great for your career and for your success, but it also shows what a ultimate talent you are in so many ways to be able to pull that off, knowing what you're going through.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think like I'm really proud of having shown up and setting that goal. And it kind of gave me a bit of a North Star in my season when I entered my season,
Mhm.
like very sad and not really knowing what was going to happen. So it gave me that purpose. In the end, though, like I think of this with avalanche safety too. Like it's really hard to teach someone something when it doesn't personally affect them. And as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about the listener who's like, oh, yeah, take care of your nervous system. But really, it happens when they hit rock bottom too. Like we're sponges, we like to learn, and for both of us it took kind of a life altering incident to like figure that out. For me with my dad, and you maybe with your concussion. And with avalanche safety, people don't necessarily take it super seriously until they're affected by it. But I wish that I could have understood that a long time ago in my career, and that my younger self could be aware of not taking on too much. And especially in today's society where, like, I don't know, work and productivity is defined by how much you do and how much you squeeze into your day, and it's not the way it's meant to be. Like we're talking about going out in nature and being slow and like appreciating those small things, like that grounds us and that connects us to the natural flows of Earth's rhythm. That sounds really hippy dippy, but I'm into it. Like we just
Well, and science is showing that now, which is pretty cool. It's not just, sound bowls and going and namaste sitting in nature. Science is showing that like the colors in nature, the shapes of nature are actually healing for your brain and relaxing for your brain, because it's not all squares. It's like the patterns in nature are actually good for your eyes. It's kind of crazy
love
to,
that.
so it isn't hippy dippy. It's
Yeah,
actually now a lot of these sort of ancient techniques and things are being scientifically
proven
proven.
correctly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I like what you talked about, how we are in a society of like productivity and what are you doing next? And even on this podcast, I try to, I mean, it's called What's the Rush because it is kind of about like what do we find out when we take a second, and the introspection that happened for me when I basically stopped competing because of this concussion was like, oh, okay. I started getting into art. I started like talking to people like in this format. So I know that you also are an artist and a creator, and you become a musician. And do you want to talk a little bit about some of the things that aren't competing
yeah,
in your sport, some of the other parts of your life that fill you up and give you energy and connect you with people?
yeah, for sure. And I think, like I mentioned earlier, that I had to redefine guilt in my
Yeah.
to be guilt is now acceptance. And I think for me, like productivity, sometimes the most productive thing I can do is take a nap or play a song on my ukulele or read a book, and that is more productive. I'm not necessarily getting something done, but I'm giving myself the opportunity to heal a little bit. And I think that's really important for all of us to note. I was just following this wonderful skier from South Lake, and she's been posting about having like a chill summer. Like I am sleeping in. I am like just not trying to climb super hard or ride my bike. And I'm like, I got so much respect for that. Like, you're not putting expectations on your performance right now. You're just resting and chilling and relaxing. And so I've really been trying to lean into that, as hard as it is for me. Like, I'll admit I need to be pretty dog tired to go to bed at night. And I to get there, like, I really have to be physically stimulated. But I yeah, now I'm just a lot more easy on myself. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to read my book. I love reading. I love getting into writing and journaling, and I love photography. I love my fiance as a professional photographer, and I really like the earth element signs. He's earth. I'm fire, earth, water,
Of
air, fire.
course we are. I'm fire as well. So yeah.
I know that. Yeah, that goes without saying. But Earth grounds fire. And Aaron is like this incredible person who's like, let's just like sit on the couch and play 15 minutes of music together. And the harmony that we find through our voices and this like beautiful connection point is like something that I feel like I've been missing in my youth. Like, I was so active and kinesthetic and never stop moving, that like he's kind of opened up my eyes to other things in life that bring me huge joy. Even like walking into a space with him, the way he looks at the way that the light meets the wall and the shadows and the art and all this stuff has opened up my eyes so much more to things that I truly am passionate about and care about as well. But I wouldn't have tapped into that without him. And so yeah, I think music being at the forefront, and we got a sailboat. That's a pretty chill activity. Well, chill to some people, I guess. Yeah. So we've been learning how to sail, and that's like this beautiful way of being out on the lake and spending time together, learning something new. And it feels slow and it feels like it's really engaging, but you're not like physically exerting yourself. We've also taken up golf at our local golf course. You're
Oh,
allowed to take your dog there. And so it's a great way to walk the dog. And I'm like, this is epic. You're outside and you are being social and it's not physically exhausting. So yeah, I've been finding these other ways of kind of balancing that out and learning to take joy in that and slow it down a little bit. And I think I'm a lot more aware of like if I'm over socializing or it's summertime, we have barbecues every single night. Like, I know that I need to take a step back and go to bed at 8 p.m. and like have a great night's sleep and take it really chill. And I can feel it now. Whereas before, I think I would just plow through it and not really allow that to affect me. But I think it's really important to just tap into that and be aware of our energy levels and what we can give and what we can't give and replenish those.
what does it feel like in your body now that you know sort of, a nervous system overload? What are the earlier signals for you now that you're just like, oh, okay, I need to take a rest day from life or
Yeah,
whatever?
totally. I think like it creeps up, and like right now, even like I was telling him, yesterday was meant to be this like super chill evening, and it for the most part was, but we had friends over and stuff like that. And for me, like, I kind of need my quiet time in my space, but I feel a bit of anxiety. Like, I feel anxious. I'm like, oh, like I'm kind of getting overloaded. I can tell that I'm really tired when I shouldn't be tired, or I'm not as productive as I know I can be when I'm in the right state of mind. And so I'll just mention it to him. I'm like, I'm running on fumes. I'm like about to crash. Like, I'm on the brink. I can tell it and I need to reel it back. And me just vocalizing that almost gives myself permission to be like last night, he went for a road ride and I was like, I'm going to sit out. I'm going to go do yoga on the deck. I would love to spend this time with you, but I need to like do me and take care of myself. And so much of it comes to giving myself permission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great, life partner to have to sort of stabilize and be understanding. And that's pretty incredible. Um, I'm curious about some of the other things that you have in your life, career wise, because you've this we know each other as former Red Bull teammates, and that's how we met, which is such a great thing. I love that Red Bull, like, you know gets a lot of different athletes together, and we sort of formed a bond, and then we actually tried to plan a bike expedition that didn't ever really come through. But you've gotten into mountain biking. You actually came to Rebecca's private Idaho with Aaron. He wasn't your fiance yet, And I think you said it was like his first, and you came with your family actually,
Yeah.
and did a trip to Sun Valley. And it was sort of, you were riding a bit, but like nobody else really was. Can you talk about that experience?
Oh yeah. Well, we met, I remember, at this athlete summit, and you gave me your book. And I remember leaving, and I always really loved meeting powerful women who I look up to. And I read your book and I was like, whoa, Reba
Thank
is a badass. Like, this is so cool. And I told so many people about this book. And I think I was maybe coming off of a knee injury pretty soon after that. And you had mentioned your ride. And I've never done anything like this before. I love mountain biking, but I've never gravel biked. I didn't even know this was a thing. And so I set it as a goal for my recovery from a knee surgery. I was like, I'm going to go out and race in Rebecca Rush's ride. Yeah, Aaron
Nice.
and I weren't even dating. And so, in preparation for that, I went and did a Michael J. Fox ride for Parkinson's out in Napa, which was my first time ever in a Peloton. And like Aaron, I like mentioned it. We were just friends. We weren't even dating. I was like, hey, I'm going to go do this ride. And he was like, oh, I'm doing it with you. I was like, you are a biker? You're into gravel riding? Like, little did I know it was his respectful pursuit of our relationship. But we did this ride in Napa. I remember riding in a Peloton and like, I'm just like, oh, so stiff. Like, this is really scary. And someone in the front of the Peloton's like, grapes, there's grapes. And I was like, grapes, there's grapes on the road. There was like hundreds of squashed grapes from a truck that had like a
Oh,
barrel of grapes had flipped over. I was like, of course, in Napa this happens. And it was all slippery and everyone's like, whoa, we make it through. And so that was prep for going out to Idaho. We go out to Idaho at this point. Aaron and I are dating. I made him ask me. We were at a gas station in California, and I was like, are we dating? Like, you haven't asked me to be your girlfriend. And he promptly went to like the barrels of flowers in the middle of the gas station and picked a flower bouquet and came back in and was like, will you be my girlfriend? And I was like, yeah, yes, okay, we're dating now. This is great news. And then we entered into, yeah, private Idaho, and we showed up, and I was so nervous. And you were hilarious. You're like, okay, Michelle, you're going to do the Queen Stage race. So, like, 4 days leading up to your first ever 100-mile ride, you're going to race every single day, too. And, oh, you're going to do the town parade with me. This is going to be great. And I'm like, sign me up for all of it. And Aaron's like, I am just doing the big potato 100-miler. Like, you can do you. We've got our steel bikes. Like, it was like, yeah, I showed up on the start line, Rebo. I had a backpack with so many snacks, and you were like, yo, what's with the backpack? And in my mind, I was like, I don't know, my shovel and probe, like, it's filled with snacks. I'm riding 100 miles. I need all the, like, there's aid stations. I was a fish out of water. But it's made me have a really cool goal to come back to. And it kind of like spearheaded this, like, okay, every year I'm going to do a bike race and it's going to be epic. And I did that race with my uncle,
yeah.
who now I couldn't do it with him, but it was such this special family moment to like be there at the finish line when he came through, to like see him out on the trail. Like, it was, and it's a part of my love story with Aaron for sure. It's like this become a family tradition now. Like, 1 year, all of my cousins signed up for it. Yeah, it's just your presence in my life has left quite the impact that I don't know
Oh.
if you're aware of it, but you've been a very through line with so many beautiful relationships that I have, and all come together over biking, thanks to you.
And that's what I love. I mean, all sports bring people together. I'm a big advocate for everyone being involved in sports, whether it's pickleball or cycling or whatever. But cycling, especially, is such this group activity that people of different levels can come, people recovering from knee injuries. I can't tell you how many athletes, runners, and skiers find cycling because they have a knee injury and their PT is like, you got to ride a bike. But
Yeah,
it's such a bonding activity to do, which I loved the way that you showed up. You were just so game. I'm like, do you want to do all the things? And you're like, yeah. And so it
yes,
was,
I do.
if I ever come on a ski adventure with you or something, that you'll be as kind to me and be like, you don't need all that stuff. I've got snacks. And but
Totally.
you were just so game to be a beginner. And I think that's what one of the things I appreciate about you as an athlete is, you're super skilled in obviously skiing, but you've taken up rock climbing and biking, and you're not afraid to be a beginner and suck at something.
Yeah.
You just like want to be outside and you want to learn and you want to be with friends. And I don't think everybody can embrace as adults, embrace sucking at things. So do you want to talk about like how do you do that? How do you just
Yeah.
show up and be like, I don't care, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna have a good time?
It's so cool to suck at something. That is the first time in that sport, in your history of that sport, that you are like so bad at it. Like, it's cool. It makes you vulnerable. Like, the amount of vulnerability that I felt showing up on that start line, and you put me right up front too, and I'm like looking over, and there's like, I don't know, all these pro
Yeah.
gravel
You're Michelle
riders,
Parker, you
and I
know?
have a Red Bull helmet on,
I,
mind you. Like, people are looking at me like she must know what she's doing, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I literally have a backpack on. No one else has a backpack on. Your aid stations are so great too. I don't think I even ate my snacks, but I had like full repair kit in there.
I love it.
But yeah,
Prepared.
I think when you can show up and be your vulnerable self, like, that is beautiful. And I love, like, even walking through the parking lot at a ski resort when someone's like fumbling with their skis and their equipment. I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna like very kindly, like, hey, do you want some help? Like, do you know what? Like, I try to do it in like a really like passive way of just like offering up some help. We're all new at things, and like, I think it's so cool to be an adult and try something new and be vulnerable and like shed any layers of ego that you have. Like, yes, so what? I'm a professional skier. I'm just a human being, and like, I want to learn something new. And the amount of community that I've gained from going into a space and being super new at something, like, the amount of people that I still keep in touch with from that very first private Idaho is like your ride is huge. Like, I don't know, that's important part of life. Like, ego gets in the way of so much. But yeah, being new at something is like the coolest thing, I think.
Has your ego gotten in the way where you haven't been able to sort of just be like, oh, no big deal? Like, have you had to work with your ego at all?
Yeah, all the time, every day. I try to get rid of that thing. I am highly competitive, but like also not the greatest competitor. I realized this year when I was falling asleep and my entire body was shaking of nerves. Yeah, I love competing. My dad and I had this really healthy competitive vibe our entire life, and competitive, but like very much he emphasized having good sportsmanship. And
Mhm.
that is something that I think is so cool. Like, even I've been watching the Tour de France and seeing Tade and Jonas like give each other high fives at the end of the race. I'm like, that is epic. Like, I appreciate you guys are so competitive on the race course, and then right after the finish line, you're like giving each other a hug. Like, I think that's just classy, and I really appreciate that. But the ego gets involved all the time, and the ego gets in the way all the time, and it's important to keep that thing in check and to be humble. And I think part of why I do a bunch of new stuff is to stay humble.
So that's your tactic is staying humble by continuing to try new things.
Yeah, I hope so. That's part of it for sure. Yeah,
That's
and when you like, we get so stuck in our routines, and there's a lot of science behind like, okay, yeah, you're a professional skier. How do you train X, Y, and Z? And like, I take a lot of inspiration from, there's this runner, she's an ultra runner, and her name's Rory Bosio. She is now a mother and has kind of moved on from racing, but when she would train for her runs, I would be seeing her on Donner Summit with her cruiser bike, pedaling uphill with a bike that makes no sense to do that, or rollerblading around the lake. Like,
yeah.
she didn't just train by running. And when you do sports or different activities, play music, learn a song, you're reconnecting and rewiring your brain. And that is going to make you stronger at your given sport because you have all these new neural pathways. And so I think continuing to evolve as a human and like doing these other things is really important.
I think also for longevity as an athlete, like people are like, think that I'm only a cyclist, but I didn't start till 38 cycling. And so it's like, I'm a climber, I'm a skier, I'm a runner, and during my concussion recovery, I actually put the bike aside because there was too much ego.
Mm.
And I didn't want to look at the power meter. I didn't want to have the expectation. And I started trail running. That was the first foray to get back to moving and get back to health. Because I couldn't go to biking. There was too much ego. And now I'm sort of back on the bike again and like, but I'm still not looking at the power meter. Like
Yeah,
I, I need to remove that judgment from it and have a
totally.
different metric of like, I'm out with my friends, I'm having fun, I'm moving, I'm feeling good. And so the goal is feeling good in life, not a performance fitness goal. Has that shifted for you? Just kind of like if you aren't competing or you're taking a break right now. So how do you how do you push yourself to get outside, or what does that look like? What does winning look like, I guess, right
Yeah.
now?
I mean, I'm with you. Like, it's hard. Like, I feel like I'm going through this shift. Like, to be quite frank, my knee, I have terrible arthritis, and it's really hard for me to make it through an entire season. Last year and the year before, like, I've kind of shut down in the spring. Spring used to be my favorite time to go on big adventures and do my thing. And now I'm like, whoa, my knee's in so much pain. Like, I need to shift my approach to skiing so that I have more longevity, and I don't want to have a knee replacement at 38. Like, I need to like realign with what I can do and be really realistic, and it's not going to be performance based. And the hard part for me is my mind is still 18. And
Yeah.
I still, when I see a cliff, I want to jump off it. I want to do a huge shifty. I want to try backflips. I want to do all these things, right? But like, I am now slowly learning that like my body can't take it anymore. Like, crashing that hard and trying that hard. And I've always been really calculated with the way that I've progressed in sport, but I really need to. I've been finding other ways to fill those holes, I guess, to your point. Like, I'm climbing right now. I haven't been mountain biking as ton because the impact is hurting me. I'm road riding and gravel riding, but I've been rock climbing a ton. And rock climbing, when you have a shot nervous system, is pretty wild too, when you're on lead and you start crying and you're like at the crag in front of everyone. So yeah, I've been working through that. And like, I went to the gym the other day and took a bunch of falls on lead just to practice falling on lead and to get my mind over this fear. But like, I feel like my relationship with fear has changed through the nervous system stuff and through like hitting that space where I felt really neutral in the mountains. And so I'm trying to build that back with so much caution and trying to bring a lot more awareness to like where I'm at on that day, which totally relates to my female cycle, which totally relates to how much rest I've been giving and like what I'm eating and adjusting, and yeah, where I'm at in that moment. Long story short, that was a rambly answer, but
No, it's good. There's a lot in there. I want to touch a little bit. You talked about fear and your relationship with fear, and I have this really distinct memory of we got to work together as diggers and like sort of mentors on the formation, which was the sort of precursor to women finally getting in to compete at Red Bull Rampage. And we got the opportunity to come, not obviously not to ride in it, but to be part of the support system for the first year, um, to just support the athletes that were there. And I have this really distinct memory of like, it was so fun. We were up digging these lines and you and I were just both like getting dirty and having so much fun, even though it wasn't really our sport. But you stood at the top of the cliff with one of the athletes who was really struggling to take the jump and do the move, and you stood up there multiple times for a long time and talked to her. And I don't even know what you said, but I really respected how you just were there as like a, not like you can do it, go do it. You were just quietly talking to her about fear and doing it, and ultimately she did it. Ultimately she went and did it and made it. And like, what was that? I mean, you've taken such a cool mentorship role in other athletes, even in other sports. Um, and you've continued with through the Rampage. You were part of the athlete selection team for this past year. So talk a little bit about that and helping these athletes figure out how they're going to do these things that are, your whole body is screaming no.
totally. And I mean, it's really fascinating. Vaya, actually, Verbeek had a really beautiful quote that stuck with me. She's like, if I'm afraid of something, it means that I'm actually contemplating doing it and that I can visualize myself doing it. If I'm not afraid of it, I'm probably not looking at the future with this probability of hitting it. And I feel that so much. Like, when I am in the mountains and I get really scared, which is a healthy thing and normal and important for me to tap into the ultimate focus when I'm on top of a line, it means that I know that I can do this and I'm going to step up and I'm going to take that on. And if, like, being at formation and last year, like, yeah, I helped with the selection committee, but I kind of helped manage the whole women's event on their side. Like I was boots on the ground with the radio, hiking up and down and telling them where to build roads and like making sure all the girls were good and bringing food and water to the diggers and like ultimately calling drops. And on competition day, they were like, you're going to be at the top. Like, I think
Wow.
that's where you can best serve the women. And I was like, whoa, that's like a pretty important, heavy spot to be. Like, you're up there when they're about to drop. So I like, my prerequisite was like, I just went up to every athlete individually and I said, what is your vibe at the start gate? Do you want me to be like cool, calm, and collected? Do you want me to have primal screams? Because I can do that too. Do you want me to play music? Do we need to like totally disassociate and start dancing? And like, I
Right.
kind of just like asked them all what they wanted and I met them where they were at. And I also like, yeah, I don't know. For me, like it's one of the lines that I kept saying. I was like, it's just you, your bike, and the earth. Like you have got this. Like this is what you do, and trying to instill confidence in them and support them without being. No one wanted primal screams. I think I would have if I was dropping into Rampage. I'd have been like, yeah, give me those primal screams. But everyone was really chill and I think the psychology behind sports is like beautiful. And in that moment when I was at formation standing on top of this like double feature with this incredible athlete, I went into like this curiosity place of like what makes me go and
Mm.
why do I go every single time I commit? And like first of all, I'm not dropping into anything unless I'm 100% committed. And that means that I'm 100% confident in my ability to do whatever it is. And I know that about myself. And when I stand on top of something, I often ask myself the question is, would I do this if there was no cameras around and it was just me out here free skiing? And if the answer is yes, then sweet, you're on the right track. If the answer is no, then your ego's in the way and you got to like rethink why you're there. And I've had moments where like I've taken a crash and then my head hurts and I get on top of a line and we're continuing to film and I ask myself that question. I'm like, no, if I was just out here by myself, I would step aside. And that's been a really easy, almost black and white way for me to like pull back when I'm overdoing it or say, hell yes, I'm in the right place at the right time. I can do this. But yeah, I recognize too that when I hear 3, 2, 1, it's so instilled in me. 3, 2, 1, I'm gonna go and drop in with full confidence. And I tried to get that with that athlete. I was like, okay, we're gonna do a countdown. And like when you see hear one, like that's your time to shine. You're committed. And since then have developed kind of a more like I had a therapist that works with Arc'teryx actually, and he has a meditation, and the process is 3, 2, 1 and
Mm.
ironically it fits really well with like my own process. But
Yeah.
3 is your body, 2 is your mind, 1 is your heart up point or your like most energetic point. It's right below your belly button and that is like your full body and mind is concentrating and on 1 you're going to go and you kind of like do that step process in your brain and it helps me to just like check all of those boxes before you drop into something with confidence.
It's such a good point of, I mean, connecting our psychology and our physiology to work as one unit. You know, that 3, 2, 1 isn't just your brain saying, I'm going to go when I on the countdown. It's you're actually somatically connecting it to your body. And there's so much power in being able to have the mind and body work together instead of being fighting each other. Like your mind's like, "Ugh," and but your gut is saying, I want to go do this cool thing, but your mind's like, but I don't know how to do it. And so being able to align those two things, your brain and your body,
Yeah.
that's true power. I mean, and people listening, you're not going to be jumping off cliffs like Michelle, or the women at Rampage. But you were talking about Vaya saying when she's afraid of something, it means she's thinking of doing it. And like anyone who's like thinking of doing something, not maybe not a sport, but like taking a risk in your career or your relationship. Or I think about, if there's something I want to talk to my husband about, but I'm like a little nervous to talk to him about it, it means that's the thing I need to do. It's
Totally.
like pointing me in a direction that needs attention or focus or where I want to go. Because your hands start sweating, your body's actually telling you yes. But
Yeah.
we often misinterpret those fear sensations as a no. And it's adrenaline, it's excitement, it's the same emotion is excitement in your body as fear. It's
It's
just how does your brain frame it?
totally. And like I've come to realize too, like I used to get really nervous for public speaking events and I'd be like shaking and my face would be like feeling like it's quivering a little bit. And I'm like, whoa, this is really intense. How am I going to do when I get the microphone? It's your body preparing yourself to do that activity.
Right.
And that's an important part of the like evolution of us as people is like when you feel that anxiety, like we could define it as anxiety as a really bad thing, but it's actually your body preparing yourself to do the thing. And that's really important. So that's almost a new redefinition for me is like, oh, when my hands are sweaty and I start to shake, like that's just your body's natural way of preparing yourself to do the thing. It's not something I should be afraid of. It's not something that I should not like it's part of the process.
Yeah, and I mean to perform in anything, I mean this is pretty known in sport. You need a certain level of arousal, a state of arousal to perform. You go too far beyond, then it's too much. If you're not enough arousal, then you're not really going to perform. So there is a sweet spot in there that if people can learn to recognize that it's not necessarily fear or anxiety, it's an arousal state, and if you're at the right arousal state, that's where performance comes.
Yeah. Yeah. Now what I need to work on is like bringing yourself back down to like baseline. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm doing some work with some athletes where we learning, and goes back to the very beginning of your nervous system being shot, but learning how to bring your nervous system up when you want to perform and down when you need to recover, and like learning to move along that sort of line of arousal or relaxation. And I think you're tapping into that with your music and some of your other stuff that you're doing.
I mean,
So
that was a funny chat GPT ask. I was like, I think that my nervous system is really tapped because this is what I do as a professional athlete and like this is how I'm feeling. What should I do? And it was like, first of all, I think you're taking the right steps by asking for advice. And it was like so nice. But it was like, here's some breath work exercises you can incorporate into your day.
yeah,
Why don't you try stretching? And like the answers were so like, oh duh, I just needed someone to tell me. Um,
GPT told you.
I don't use it that much, but for certain things, it's been great.
Awesome. I want to talk to you before we close out. You've done so many cool projects, and we're gonna share a bunch of them. But like, yeah, you've done so many cool documentaries, and like, yeah, gotten to work with some amazing people all over the place. But you've got something that you're pretty excited about right now that you're working on, and that you do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, it's interesting. I feel like I did this series with Red Bull called Originate. And at the time I was like, there's not enough women's content on Red Bull TV and in action sports in general. And I'm just gonna pitch it. And it went over really well. And now I'm kind of looking at the big scope of everything and I'm like, whoa, the history of free skiing isn't super well documented. Like I love the long form documentaries and it feels really weird to pitch a story about yourself, ego. But am in the pitching process of pitching a story that is about my career, but also about like what's happening right now in my life in caregiving for my dad and how that has been this ultimate turning point in my personal story and in my career. And I think like in this day and age, it's really easy for us to become disassociated with our families. There's a lot of, um, it's really easy also to not want to care for your family members. It's a huge deal, and neurological diseases are on the rise. It's becoming an epidemic, and so shedding light on like people with dementia are often called the forgotten ones, and that just breaks my heart. My dad was always so the center of attention in the way that he was so loving and caring and gregarious and like carried on conversations with anyone. And so yeah, kind of documenting my career, but going into this caregiving and talking about dementia and how that affects people and how that affects families and how difficult it is to caregive for people and to put your life on hold to do that. And ultimately shedding light on that disease, but also on the struggles that we all will face when our loved one needs to go into a home potentially or find extended medical care. And yeah, it's the most beautiful expedition, like I said earlier, that I've ever been on, but it's also been super straining and super difficult. And every day with him is different. You never know what you're going to get. We did film a day with him, and he was hamming it up for the camera and so beautifully present. And I think, yeah, that was a bit of a roundabout answer, but like also tapping into that relationship with family.
Yeah.
And when I say that, it's really like I read an article the other day that was talking about how a lot of children are becoming estranged from their family because of trauma from childhood, or all of these boxes that we're opening up with therapy and that kind of stuff. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I know I'm super privileged, but like family is so important, and our relationships with those people is so important. And I never want to lose that connection. And I hope that communication and working through stuff can like bring us closer. I've done that a lot with my family. It's been a huge challenge, but I feel like shedding light on the fact that my dad's my best friend is also pretty epic, and our friendship and relationship is beautiful and strong, and I think it's important. And I think for me, like it felt really isolating when I first became a caregiver because I didn't know other people. And I think it's important to share these stories and help people not feel so alone, and hopefully be a positive light in that regards. So yeah, it's not just about my career, but it's about me and my dad being best friends.
I mean, it's a super important story to tell, and you're uniquely positioned as a filmmaker, as an athlete, as a creator, as his caregiver and his best friend to be the one to tell this story. I mean, it's not ego; it's that you have a gift to be able to do this, and it will help other people. I can say from my experience doing Blood Road to connect with my father who died in Laos during the Vietnam American conflict. I went on a big ass ride. I went on a huge 1,200-mile bike ride, and I used my way and my platform to tell that story of war and you know sort of the death and destruction of war, and forgiveness in like making friends with people who were on a different side. And so there's no more important story to tell, Michelle, than this one that you're about to tell. It's the most important project of your life, and I can't wait to see it. And if people are listening, I know that you're looking for funding, you're looking for support for this project, so we'll put your contact link in the show notes. But like I'm just continually amazed and impressed by you as a human being. And I said it at the beginning, you are a light for so many, and this new film project is going to be a light for people who you never knew you would touch, people who aren't necessarily athletes, but people who are family members, because we all are.
Yeah. Thank you, Rebecca. That means a lot to me. I also recognize that I get so excited when I'm on this podcast with you. I'm like talking really fast and super energetic, and I'm like, simmer down. I should have done some breath work before jumping on.
I well, I shared with you at the beginning, and I was kind of excited and nervous too because you also give me a lot of energy. So I think as we wrap it up, we need to make a commitment to do a bike ride together or do something outside together because it's been
Yes,
too long
it's
since
been
we
too long. Well, the last I really remember was, well, doing your ride and you kind of taking me under your wing, and you're like, you're going to do all the stage race before, which was so out of my element, but I loved it. And then being in Tahoe when we were talking about doing the Tahoe Lake Trail, and I think it was like day 3 of riding with you, and we had ridden every day. And you're like, okay, Michelle, we're gonna do intervals. And I was like, okay. And you're like, when I say go, I want you to redline, like go all out. And you were like, go. And my pace didn't change. And you're like, no, okay, you go. And I was like, Reba, I've been redlining for 3 days straight.
I'm already there.
But
Oh,
yeah, you've been such a beautiful guiding light, a huge mentor of mine, someone who I have looked up to for so many different reasons. And when I think of athletes that are the whole package, I think of you. And yeah, thank you for doing what you've done and being so inspirational and giving other people opportunities to rise up, because that's ultimately what you've done to me. So thank you.
Well, that's my definition of winning, hearing that kind of a compliment from you and, helping the next generation of amazing athletes make an impact. That's winning. So I appreciate you so much. And for those of you listening, we will put a ton of show notes for all of Michelle's projects. And thank you for spending time with me and for being so open.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, to the listeners, thanks for tuning in. Rebecca's one of my biggest heroes. And to anyone who's out there caregiving or dealing with dementia or neurological things, I've got you. I hear you. I see you. I love you. Yeah. What's your little saying? Be kind.
Well, what's the rush? Be good. Yeah, be
Be
good.
good.
Exactly.
Be
Well,
good. Be kind and smile.
thanks for being here, everyone. I'll see you on the next episode.
Hey, it's a long and dusty road and a hot and heavy load. Folks I meet ain't always kind. Some are bad, some are good, some have done the best they could. Some have tried to ease my troubling mind. And I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound.